Hey guys, welcome to this week's video on the hunting grounds. This week's video is pretty informative and I hope you guys enjoy it. But first of all, let's talk hunting. Hunting season's coming up pretty quick and a lot of you guys have land or have secured land for this next year's hunting season. But let's talk about that land for a little bit. Now the land behind me has got some good timber stands and some open fields, and a lot of you guys have land just like that. And you're going, man, what can I do to have even more deer in here? I already think it's big buck territory, but I want more deer coming in here. A lot of you guys are thinking, let's plant a food plot. Well, that might not be the best thing in this case. So now you're asking, if they don't need food plots, then what is it they need? Well, deer need three key factors in the area which they live to sustain them there and to keep them there. Now you have your timber stand, which serves as shelter, and you have your fields, which serve as your food, and what's the other factor? That's right, it's water. They need shelter, food, and water to sustain them and to keep them there on that property. Now I've ran into this summer because we've hit some high temperatures and the deer have really been keying in on water. Now let's take for instance the 300 acres that I hunt on and that I have the deer camera on. Now where I have the deer camera positioned, it's a good ways, about 1,000 yards from any water source. And as the temperatures continued to rise, I saw fewer and fewer deer around the deer camera. Now all I'm seeing is something between maybe a doe here and there, or a doe and fawn, and I'm not really seeing any of the bucks that I was seeing at the beginning of the year when it was really wet. Now the reason for this is because deer need their water, and when it gets hot they're going to be keying in on those water sources, and there's not a close water source, so they've left the area. And I think the only reason that the does have stayed around that have fawns is because that's their sanctuary, that's where they're safe, that's where they want their fawns to stay, and I'm sure those does have some way of getting water, but they stay in that area. Now let's say I needed a pond, and I made a pond, and that's great. The deer are going to use it, they're going to come in, they're going to get a drink from it, but what is that going to do? That's going to really concentrate those deer down around that pond. And what happens when you get a high concentration of deer in a general area? You get a heavy browse. Now, that's not going to be able to support as many deer in that area because you're going to get heavily browsed around the pond. It's going to be competition for that food and water source, and so you aren't going to have as many deer as you could there. But if you were to take this and put a couple of ponds throughout the property, as you can see, it's going to allow that concentration to overlap, and you're going to have deer scattered throughout the property rather than concentrated in one area. Now, building a pond doesn't have to be an expensive thing. You don't have to build some big 5-10 acre pond. You can do a little quarter, or even an eighth size of an acre pond that's relatively shallow. It's just deep enough to hold water. Normally I would put them on the edge of a tree line or the edge of a food source, a field or a food plot, because there the deer are going to have their food, shelter, and water, and they don't have to venture very far from that. But this is an inexpensive way to have more deer coming to your property, staying on your property, and it's going to increase your deer density. Now, like I said in last week's video, I do a lot of pre-season work, whether it's scouting, putting up deer cams, making food plots, clearing trails. I do a lot of that work during the summer. That way when fall rolls around, I can focus on hunting and don't have to get in there and scare out the deer wildlife in the area trying to do some of that work. Well, where I'm at today is I'm actually on the property that joins to ours. It's my neighbor's property, and I have permission to hunt this property, and unfortunately no one else does. I can't bring youth or friends on here and hunt, but I can bring youth and friends on here to videotape or kind of go along on a hunt with me, and I've done that. We've really enjoyed some great times out here. But this area where I'm at today, this is where I bow hunt. And I bow hunted here last year and saw a lot of deer, and I've already seen a lot of deer activity this year because this is where we have our trail cam set up, and we've already captured a lot of photos of deer. But what I want to do is I'm going to get in here with some good old elbow grease. I'm going to clear out some more sections of this because this is going to give me more shooting lanes with my bow. It's going to also produce more browse for the deer in here because once you get a little bit further in the winter, all this stuff dies, the deer really can't get back into it. But if I go through now, chop down this big, thick, nasty stuff and promote the grass to grow, that grass will last a little bit further into the winter. Deer will stay in here a little bit longer and give me a little bit bigger chance of harvesting something. Now, as you see behind me, there's a lot of grass growth. And this grass growth even goes up into this harder vegetation, which consists of anything from black raspberry bushes to saplings to rose bushes, just the hard, nasty stuff that deer sometimes have a hard time getting through. and it reduces the amount of growth to this grass down below. So what we're going to do is we're going to get in, knock all this stuff off at brown grass level or a little bit lower, and what that's going to do is going to promote the grass growth. It's going to give it more sunlight, it's going to give deer more area to browse, and it's going to give me hopefully a lot more shooting lanes so I can, maybe hopefully harvest a buck here. Alright, here we go. Now you can see what about 10 minutes of hard work will do. This could make or break your hunt for this year because this could be that perfect shooting lane for that once-in-a-lifetime buck. Now if you can get a tractor in, do some brush hogging, do it. But where we're at here on this property, there's no way to get a tractor in here, so it goes back to old elbow grease, but it's okay because it usually pays off in the hunting season. Whether I get something or not, it still allows me to see more deer. So that's your little tip that could make your hunting grounds into a honey hole. Well guys, I hope you learned some good tips on this week's video, and I hope that you learned that water is a valuable source on anybody's property, and it could make your grounds into your very own hunting grounds. Now I have a favor to ask. I like to make things as professional, as good as they can be, and this video camera isn't cutting anymore. Now with this upcoming season, I'll be taking some youth, some friends, and myself hunting, and I need to purchase a new video camera, because this one, like I said, it's getting a little iffy. This new video camera is going to cost anywhere from $1,600 to $3,000. I'm not made of money, and I know you aren't made of money, but I want you guys to be part of the hunting grounds. Now I'm willing to advertise for you or to do anything that I can to work it out. But if you guys feel led to donate any kind of money towards this, please email me at the bottom of the screen at entertainangels42@gmail.com, and we'll talk about it. Just make sure this is something that you really want to do, and I would love for you to be a part of this hunting grounds. Well, that's it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Tune in next week, and as always, have a better than average day. I'm going to clear a little bit of this out with some good old elbow grease and some sweat. That's creepy. Sweat? Okay. There are bugs everywhere. There are bugs everywhere. Hot and attractive.